Tov.
Shavua Tov.
I hope everybody had a pleasant and nice Shabbos. Shabbos a little different than all the others, but a pleasant one nevertheless. What a bracha we had, beautiful weather today. We are in Daf Yud Daled. We had started learning the Yud Ches Davar, the 18 things that were enacted by Talmidei Bishamai in the attic of Hananiah, and the Gemara is analyzing all of them, what they were for and what they are. So we are in Yudalad Amud Aleph, about a third of the way down. The Gemara had said, "V'haba Rosha v'ruba b'mayim she'uvim." Somebody who comes with most of his body into drawn water, and as we said, that means water that had been gathered and isn't rainwater directly into the water. Why did the Rabbanan enact such a thing? That there's tumah. At first, the mikvahs were pits in the ground, and the water would end up becoming, it was a pit in a cave or just in the ground, and the water was smelly. And so they would rinse themselves, sort of pour fresh water over themselves to wash off the mikvah water. So people started making that as you must do it, as a must. And therefore people started thinking that's a part of the mikvah process, is going to the mikvah and then washing yourself off afterwards. So Gozar Aleim Tumah. So they enacted that that's Tumah. The Gemara says, who cares? My keva. The reason is because they started saying the mikvah itself isn't what causes the tahara. It's the water afterwards that causes the purification of the tahara. The Gemara says, that they both cause, you need both. Amalei Rava, so what? My nafkusamina. What do we care if they think that the water afterwards is also part of the process? Hakatavli, the main thing is, they went into the mikvah first. That they ended up saying that the water alone after is what causes the mikvah, the tahara, and you don't even have to go to the mikvah. Just pouring the water over you is going to be tough. Another thing is, also somebody who poured water over himself. So somebody took a shower, somebody poured water over himself, is going to cause tumah on himself. So my time goes to Rabbanan. So why did the Rabbanan enact such a tumah? The because if you can take a shower and it doesn't make you tummy, so then people will say, how can it be that you take a shower, it does not make you tummy? But if you take a shower after a mikvah, it makes you tummy. That's impossible. So therefore, they said that it makes you tummy. Just so that you know, a practical application of this is that when somebody goes to a mikvah in a d'oraisa obligation, they should not go to the mikvah, should not take a shower immediately after going to the mikvah nowadays. Rather, they go only after they come home, and would they then take a shower to show that the mikvah itself does the tahara, and not to get confused like this Gemara says, to that people will establish that it is the shower thereafter that makes you tummy. The Sefer. And a book of the Sefer Torah also makes you tummy. My time it goes by Rabbanan Tumah. So why did the Rabbanan enact a Tumah for touching of a Sefer Torah or books of Tanakh? Amar Rav Misharsha b'Shabbat Matzani Noichlin the Truma Eitzel Sefer Torah, because they used to put in the chest that they would have the Sefer Torah, they would also put Teruma food. They need a place to keep it separate from the rest of the food. Thank you very much. They used to put the Teruma food separate from the rest of the food, and you need a place to put it, so they would put it into the ark that they would keep the Torah in. So you'd keep it in the Aron, and they would say, look, this is Kodesh, it's Teruma. And this is Kodesh, it's a Sefer Torah, so we can put them next to each other. So that it wasn't the problem, but the problem became that they'd have mice and rodents that would come in for the food, and they would damage the Sifrei Torah. But Amru Hai Kodesh, Rai Kodesh said this is Kodesh and this is Kodesh. Given the Kachazi, the Kasav, they say that they saw that it's becoming that the Sefer Torah itself is getting damaged. Gazer Rabbanan Tuma. So the Rabbanan enacted a Tuma to the Sefer Torah. In this way, people wouldn't keep their teruma produce and their teruma bread near the Sefer Torah. Vahayadayim, and the tumah of the hands, because hands are busy and they touch different parts of the body. You scratch your head and you touch your above the elbow, and therefore the hands become tummy and they become dirty. And the concern is that you will then touch teruma in such a state. Tana af yudayim habois machma sefer poslas, and we learned in a brisa that also hands that touched a sefer Torah is also going to be invalidated and could make teruma tummy. And poslas is a teruma. Mishum de Rav Parnach, on account of Rav Parnach, Amar Rav Parnach, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Eicha sefer Torah arum nikvar arum. Somebody who touches the Sefer Torah without a cloth, and this is why when we kiss the Sefer Torah, we point in the Sefer Torah, we have a pointer, or we have a cloth that we do. We don't touch the Sefer Torah itself. And also you may have seen this if people are trying to help the one doing the Hagba or Galila, and the Sefer Torah cloth is dropping, they will use something else to hold it, like a talus or the mantle of the Sefer Torah, in order not to touch the cloth itself by hand. So nikbar arum, if somebody touches it naked, meaning without any cloth in between, gets buried unclothed. So Gemara says, arum sakadayach, really? He's going to get buried unclothed? That can't be. It will be it will be buried without mitzvahs. But like mitzvahs hakadayach, really? He loses all his mitzvahs on account of that? What it means is he will have lost the opportunity for that mitzvah. So now the Gemara analyzes which one was done first. Was Hai Gaza Beresha? Which one was enacted first? Was the enactment first to not that hands that touch a Sefer Torah become tamei, or hands in general are tamei? So the Gemara says Gaza Beresha. Given the Hach Gaza Beresha, Hasu Lamali. It has to be that the Sefer Torah was the first enactment, because if the enactment of the general enactment was for the hands, so then why would I then have to enact the Sefer Torah separately? We already said that all hands are enacted to be a tumah. So therefore, it must be that it's all enacted. First we enacted no hands, and then we enacted no hands touch Sefer Torah, because they would become tummy, and then we enacted in general that hands do create tumah. We are now on Yud Daled Amud Beis at the top. First we enacted the Sefer Torah, and then we said in general all hands. The next one that the Mishnah, that the Brisa had enumerated as an enactment of that day was Tavul Yom. That somebody who went to the mikveh on that day and the sun had not set yet, he would be tamei. So Gemara says, Tavul Yom, what are you talking about? The Oraisahu, that's a biblical tumah. Dechsev, as it says, of Hashemesh v'tor, he'll go to the mikveh, and then it says, and the sun will set, and he will be tamei, tahor. So we see that the Torah explicitly says that you're not going to be tahor until the sun sets. And when it says, you're right, samim count Tavul Yom. You have to remove from the count that we've had so far, we have to remove Tavul Yom. That's not a part of the 18. So we said, food that became tamei through a liquid. So in order to understand this, we have to know a couple of things. On a Torah level, hi, Rabbi Skolnick, we are in Yud Daled Amud Beis. We're in the 6th or 7th line where the Gemara begins to discuss the mashkin haba machmas yadayim, liquids that become mashkin oichlin haba shenitmu b'mashkin in the fifth line. So what kind of liquid are we talking about? So an introduction we need to know is that on a biblical level, food and drink cannot make a kli, a vessel, tummy. Tuma to a vessel can only come from a primary source of tuma, from an av hatuma. If it's not an av hatuma, it cannot make a vessel tummy. Secondly, we need to know that liquid cannot make food tummy. Sorry, liquid cannot make liquid tummy, and food cannot make food tummy. Those two require either liquid can make food tummy and food can make drink tummy, but not themselves on a biblical level, on a Torah level. Now we have so now the Gemara asks, what food are we talking about that became tameh from, what drink made food tameh? In that word, we said that there's a rabbinic enactment. But mashkin damai, what kind of liquid are we talking about that's making your food tameh that was a rabbinic enactment? Are we talking about liquid that became tameh through a sheretz? Now, it came into contact with a rodent, a dead rodent, a rodent which the Torah says is shmona shratzim who caused tuma. Well, that is the sheretz is a primary source of tuma. Then the liquid will then become a first level tuma, and then of course the food would be a second level tuma, and that is a biblical form of tuma. How do I know this? So the Gemara says, sheretz, the oraiseninu, the chsifur, it says, v'chol mashke asher yishase. And the end of that pasuk, which is missing here, b'chol kli yitma. And this is talking about in a vessel. So you have an earthenware vessel that has a sheretz in its ear space and liquid in its ear space. The Torah says it becomes tameh, and that would be a second degree tumah. Because the sheretz, as we know in an earthenware vessel, tumah is not only by touch, it's even in the ear space itself. And in fact, on the outer side, no tumah applies even by touch. On the inside of the vessel, even in the ear space, tumah applies. So now I have a sheretz dangling inside the ear space of this earthenware vessel, and I have liquid in the ear space of the earthenware vessel, in the space of the earthenware vessel, even if it's touching for sure, right? But it's on the inside. So now the sheretz makes the vessel tameh, and the vessel makes the liquid tameh, but that's a biblical tumah for the vessel itself. And if we say, and for the liquid, and if we say that the liquid can become tameh from the sheretz with the vehicle of the vessel in between, for sure, in a direct touch, the liquid can become tameh from the sheretz. Now, even though it's true that in the Torah's case, which is the sheretz is in the ear space of the vessel, and that makes the vessel tameh, and then the vessel makes the liquid tameh because it's in the ear, it's touching it. That's a second degree tumah for the water, for the liquid, but you can't have it a second degree tumah when it touched the sheretz directly. So if you have liquid that touched the sheretz directly, it must be, since tumah applies to liquid and sheretz, that we know from this verse in the Torah, it'll apply as a direct tumah and a first level tumah when the liquid touched the sheretz directly. And if that liquid then touches the food would be a second level tumah on a biblical level. Therefore, I know for sure that the that the liquid that touched the food, which was an enactment of Beis Shammai in the attic of Hananiah, cannot be this case, because that's a Torah level tumah. Ela mashkan abos machmasidai. So must be we're talking about water that became tameh on account of someone's hand, and before he washed his hands, before he did netilah. With the Rabbanan enactment, as we said before, that the hands are a second level tumah. Now that food is going to be a third level tumah, and this is true also for all the psulim, all of the things that invalidate teruma, we say they make the hands a tuma, and gazer yadayim, and the Chachamim made an enactment by the hands, and therefore this food is going to be tummy. And the reason they made this enactment is since we have a biblical tumah for water, that could be a first level tumah for a liquid. That could be a first level tumah, such as the liquid we just mentioned that touched the sheretz. So too, they enacted that all tamei water, even the ones that are tamei on account of a rabbinic enactment, would make teruma tamei puzzle on account of there are sometimes it's biblical. The next one of the enactments was v'hakelim shenitnu b'mashkin. Also vessels that became tamei through a water. Now, as we said, food and drink cannot make a vessel tamei on a biblical level. So what is this? So v'kelim the itmu b'mashkin demai. What kind of liquid are we talking about? Ilim b'mashkin the zav. If we're talking about not a liquid drink, but we're talking about a bodily fluid from a primary source of tuma being the zav, well, the araisin in it, those are going to be biblical tumas because that counts as a primary source. The Chsifra says, "V'chiorok hazav b'tahor," as it says in the Torah, if the zav were to spit on a tahor, he's going to become tummy. And as we saw in Masechet Nida, that this tells us even midras azav and so on. And that's what this next line over here is, even though it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Masher b'yad tar tamei l'cha, anything that's in the hand of the tar would also be tamei, but that's not relevant to our point. But the point being is that we see that the bodily fluids of a zar, any bodily fluids of a zar, are going to count as a primary source. And therefore, it can even make a vessel tummy. So what are we talking about? Ella b'mayim. Sorry, I lost it. Ella b'mashker abayim machmas sheretz. So rather, it's liquids that came on account of a sheretz. So they made a vessel tummy, which we just said that a liquid cannot make a vessel tummy. But nevertheless, since there is a liquid that can, oraisa on a biblical level, make a vessel tamei, such as what we just mentioned, the bodily fluids of a zav, therefore we enacted also that the enactment is that any liquids that are tamei, even if it's from a sheretz, which generally would not make a vessel tamei, it would make the rabbinically midrabanan. We say it becomes tamei on account of that it is similar and will be confused with bodily fluids of a zav. Now the Gemara challenges some of the assumptions. We said that that there was a list of enactments that came from the students of Shammai in the attic in the attic of Hananiah. And the Gemara says, really? Yadayim, the Tuma of hands, was an enactment of the students of Shammai? V'yadayim Talmidei Shammai v'Hillel Gazer. It's the students of Shammai and Hillel that enacted it. Shammai v'Hillel Gazer. Shammai and Hillel themselves enacted it. The Tanya, as we learned. Yosef ben Yezer ish Tzreida v'Yosef ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim. The first of the Zugos. Now, the term of the Zugos is that after the Nevi'im and the Anshe Knesset Gdola, the Masorah went over to the head of the Beis Din, the Av Beis Din, and the Nasi, and they led Klai. So for many generations, we had the Zugos, the pairs, and they were led by, the first of the pairs was Yosef ben Yezer and Yosef ben Yochanan, and they led Klai Yisrael for a while, and they were Av Beis Din and Nasi, respectively. Now, the term Ish Tzareda, and the Tosis Yantav says Ish in others that Ish Tzreida means that he was a government appointee, a leader of that community. The Ramban seems to say that it wasn't that he was a leader by government appointee, but he was of the greatest scholars of that city. But either way, Yosef ben Yezer was Ish Tzreida, and Yosef ben Yochanan was Ish Yerushalayim, of the leaders of Tzreida and Yerushalayim. And they were the leaders, and they enacted some things. And what enactment did they make? They made Gazru Tuma al Eretz Ha'amin. They enacted Tuma on the ear on the. We'll see later whether it's the airspace or the land of the outside of Eretz Yisrael. If anybody goes outside of Eretz Yisrael, there is a tumah that comes upon them, and they also enacted akli zechuches, that there are laws of tumah apply to glass. Now, glass was not mentioned in the Torah. The Torah mentions metal and wood and earthenware vessels. The Torah does not mention glass. And Yosef ben Yezer and Yosef ben Yochanan enacted tumah upon glass in their generation. Shimon ben Shetach, who was also of the Chachamim of that generation, of that era, Tiken Ksuba Leisha, enacted a Ksuba for a woman. Now Rashi points out that the Gemara in Ksubas at length tells us that Ksuba is the Oraisa, at least that there's opinion Ksuba the Oraisa, and we hold that way. So since if that's the case, what does it mean that they enacted Ksuba? Rashi said they enacted that we write in the Ksuba, and it is a Tanai Ksuba, it is a condition of the Ksuba, that all of the assets of the husband are beholden, there's a lien against it for the Ksuba. The Gazar Tuma al Kli Matras, and also enacted Tuma on metal vessels. Now, metal vessels are included in Tuma in the Torah. So the Gemara later is going to tell us about what does this mean that Shimon ben Shetach enacted Tuma for a metal vessel. And then this brisa continues. It says, and Shammai and Hillel Gazar Tuma al Yadayim. And Shammai and Hillel were the ones that enacted Tuma upon hands. So how can you tell me it's the students of Shammai and Hillel who were the ones that enacted Tuma on their hands? It was actually already their teachers, Shammai and Hillel. And if you're going to tell me Shammai and his students and Hillel and his students, that's what it means. Can't be. That it was 18 things that they enacted, and each one of those 18 things were actually a disagreement amongst the students. However, we know that Hillel and Shammai themselves, even though their students had many disagreements, Hillel and Shammai themselves only had 3 disagreements. And the Gemara is going to tell us the Amar of Huna Begimel Kamis Nachlaku Mesulai, that Hillel and Shammai themselves only disagreed in 3 places, and that's it. Inu Gazer Litlas, Ba'asa Tamidei Megazru Lisrov. Hold on a moment. I have an urgent shaila that I need to answer. That was indeed an urgent question, so I needed to have the answer now. Sorry. So, how can you say that Shammai and Hillel would have enacted this together with their students? We know Shammai and Hillel only had 2-3 disagreements amongst themselves, and here we say that the 18 enactments were 18 enactments that were disagreed upon. So, and if you tell me, you know what, Shammai and Hillel enacted just that if somebody touches teruma with their hands unwashed, that it becomes tameh, to the level of litlos. There's a concept in tuma of teruma that it doesn't become tameh completely, or rather, you can't eat it, but you also can't burn it. And the Chachamim, when they enacted students, they enacted a full tumah to the degree that you have to burn the teruma, which is the halacha of teruma tameya, that you have to burn it. So Gemara says v'chi tema, and if you're going to tell me also inu gazalitlos, that Shammai and Hillel themselves, their level of enactment was just that hands are tameh to make teruma tameh to the level of taliyah, and it's hanging and it's in limbo. But also, Talmidai of Gazru Lisrov, and the students came and they enacted it to be that it's so tameh that you burn it. But Amar Ilfa, but it's not so, because Ilfa said, Yedayim techilas gzeiras al-Yisrei, for from the start, the enactment was that hands will make tuma, create tuma to the degree that you have to burn the teruma. Ela aser enu gazer v'lekibla minai. Rather, Gemara says, you're right, Shammai and Hillel enacted it. But as we know, and we talked about this in in brachos and in the previous cycle of Daf Yomi, that the halacha is that Chachamim only enact something that Rov ein gazing zera elam kain Rov tzibur yichol lamamo. They don't enact something unless the majority of Klal Yisrael can accept it and live with it. And the test for that is if they actually accept it. If there's an enactment made and lo pashta b'rov tzibur, it didn't spread to the majority, meaning the majority did not accept that gzera, it's batel. It's not a gzera anymore. So that's what happened with Hillel Shammai. They enacted a tumah on the hands, and the majority of people didn't accept it. The students enacted it, and then it was accepted. The students enacted it at the next generation, and it was accepted. And the Gemara Chulin tells us similarly with bread, and it tells us about oil that was not accepted. With bread, at first it was not accepted, and then a later generation did accept it. It just depends on what the generation is up to and whether they're able to do it or not. So the Gemara says, okay, fine. So our first question was, how can you tell us that the students of Shammai and Hillel enacted this in the attic of Hananiah? After all, Shammai and Hillel themselves did it. The Gemara says, you're right, Shammai and Hillel did it, but it didn't become accepted. And then Hillel, and then the students of Shammai and Hillel did it, and it was accepted. But still, we have a problem. Shlomo himself enacted this. The Amar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel b'Shashatikim Shlomo Eruvim and until Sedayim Yatzabasko v'Amra Bani Im Chacham Lipcha Yismach Libi Gamani Chacham Bani v'Smach Libi v'Shiva Charfi Dover. That Shlomo HaMelech is the one that enacted Eruvin and the Tumah of Yadayim, and the Maharsha takes out the word Natilas Yadayim, the washing of the hands, because actually he enacted it for Kachim, which halacha is Tevilas Yadayim. You need Tevila. However, others say no, it's correct. Natilas Yadayim, because Shlomo only enacted that you have to wash your hands, and it was the later Chachamim that enacted that you for Kachim you have to Tevilas Yadayim, you have to dunk your hands. Either way, when Shlomo HaMelech enacted Eruvin and the Tumah of Yadayim. So how can you say that there was the students of Shammai and Hillel that enacted it? Now, we bring two psukim here to say that the Basko, the heavenly voice, came out and said these two psukim that are from Mishlei as a response to Shlomo enacted these two enactments, Eruvin and Natilas Yadayim. One is, Bani im chacham libcha yismach libi gamani, my son, if your heart is smart, my heart is joyous with you. And another one that says, Bani chacham bani yismach libi v'shiv yachar davar, my heart is smart and my heart is joy. My son is smart, my heart is joyous, and I return and I will respond to those that mock me some words. Now, the Mefarshim explain that Eruvin and Natilas Yadayim are the prototypes of enactments because there are two types of enactments as fences, as protections for Averas. One is where there's a confusion, where people mistake one halachic context for another. For instance, Eruvin, which is something we're in the middle of talking about. Because Eruvin, what do you need an Eruv for? Because we mentioned at the beginning of the Masechta, on a Torah level, Rishus HaRabim has parameters that are very, very strict. It has to be 16 amos wide, and it has to service a large crowd, and it has to go straight from the beginning of the city to the end of the city, or the intercity, or it has particular rules. The confusion is that people think that a road that is maybe a public right of way, but it's only 10 amos wide, will also count as a Rishus HaRabim. After all, it services the public, and they think that has the halacha of a public way. Or my front yard, which doesn't have a fence, and your front yard, and we have a chutzner, a courtyard that we share. So these are spaces that seem public to the masses, even though they're really a private domain or a non-halachic, a non-Torah level public domain, Rishus HaRabim. And therefore the Chachamim, Shlomo HaMelech over here, enacted a fence, a protection that you need to make an eruv to conjoin it and make it, define it as a private domain, because otherwise people confuse it. That's one type of derabanan. Similar to that would be, let's say, chicken and milk, which people think of chicken as meat, and therefore Chachamim made that enactment. But that's the fence over there. It's that people, when you say meat, they will shop for meat, turkey, chicken as a part of it as well, because that's meat. The second type of enactment is not of offense, is not because people confuse it, but because someone may make a mistake. Someone may actually do this out of lack of precaution. So it's a precautionary measure. Offense like a railing on a staircase and something like that. It's precautionary. It's not because somebody may confuse it for the step. It's just that they may not be careful and fall. So that's the second one. Netilas yadayim is because people are not so careful and may touch something that can make their hands a tumah d'oraisa, and therefore they made a tumah d'rabbanan. So that's the two prototypes of offenses of shmira that gzeros HaChazal make, and that's what these two psukim are. In any case, the Gemara says, Asha Shloma gazel lekachim. Shlomo enacted netilas yadayim, as we said, or maybe tavilas yadayim, either dunking or washing of the hands, for kachim. V'asiyanu gazel afla teruma. And the students of Shammai in the attic of Hanania enacted also the tumah of yadayim of hands for teruma. So gufa. So now we're going to analyze the original statement that we said. Amar Yehuda Mashmul Yudches Gazru Yudches Nechleku. There were 18 enactments, and in each one of the 18, there was a disagreement between the students of Shammai and Hillel. But we learned in the end, Hushvu, but we learned that they had accepted them. The students of Beis Hillel accepted it. He says, you're right. They accepted it because it was an enactment and they followed the majority. The machlokas over here was accepted because the Torah says that when there's a consent, there's a beis din, they actually sit together, you count, and then you have to follow the majority rule. And they accepted it. Hushmu was the next day they accepted it because that's what the halacha is. Even though they held that it was wrong and they didn't want to follow, they originally disagreed. Once the majority rule was counted, the majority they went along and they accepted it. And this is true. Maritzchia says this is true of all machlokas. When we say that there was no machlokas until the machlokas of smicha, for instance, which the Gemara says, the Mishnah says a chagiga. Of course, there were disagreements that went on, and Tosfos talks about this. There were disagreements that went on throughout the generations, but the Torah gave us a mechanism for that. The mechanism is you go to beis din and we follow the majority rule. And once the majority rules, that becomes the law, and the disagreement is no longer. It's only after we didn't have the opportunity of beis din, where people would sit together and discuss the two sides until they were able to make a vote and see, count and see who rules with one side or the other. Therefore, those machlokas remained as machlokas, and that's what's going on over here. But indeed, in the end, there was no machlokas in this case because they had a majority rule. That was the case that we'll see later in the Gemara. And we mentioned earlier that they blocked people from leaving in order to make sure that they were able to get a quorum and a vote to get the majority. So Gemara says, Gufa. Let's analyze the other statement itself. Amar Avuna begimel machlokas nechleku Shammai v'Hillel. That Shammai and Hillel had a machlokas about 3 places in Shas. Shammai Omer, so what are the 3? Shammai Omer mikav chala. Shammai says that 1 kav, which is 4 lug, is where you get a measure for chala. V'Hillel Omer mikabayim, and Hillel says you need 2 kav. V'Chachamim Omer, the Chachamim says look at the Rizeh, look at the Rizeh. It's neither, not like Shammai, not like Hillel. Ella kavo mechza. It's actually a kav and a half, which is 6 log, chay b'chala. However, mishehigdilu amidos, when they came to Tzipori, the Gemara tells us elsewhere, and the Yerushalmi elaborates it, that the measurements were increased by a 1/6, and so therefore 6 log became 5 log, and therefore a kav and a half, which is 6 log, actually became a kav and a quarter. So Amrut, so they said from there on, michameshes ruvoim, 5 quarters, meaning 1 1/4, a kemach, is what flour is what Chayavas B'chala is obligated in Chala. So that's the first machlokes Shammai and Hillel themselves, even though, and actually we don't paskin like either of them. The halacha is Chameshus Ravim Kemach, like the Chachamim. Rabbi Yossi Omer, hey Peturim, hey Va'od Chayam. He actually says it's not 5 kav, but 5 lug. It's not 5 quarters, or rather 5 and a bit, because it was actually a little more, because the egg's size also was a little different, and therefore it was for every lug there was another 6th added, so it was a little bit more. The idach. What's the second machlokas between Shammai and Hillel? Hillel would say a full hin of water, which is 12 lug, is what will invalidate a mikvah. If before you have 40 saw in a mikvah, which of rainwater, which is what makes a valid mikvah, 40 saw. If before you get a complete mikvah, you get water that had been drawn in a vessel into the mikvah, it's going to invalidate the mikvah. But how much water that had been drawn in a vessel? How much mayim she'uvin? So Hillel would say melohin, a complete hin, which is 12 lug. And the Gemara says, why do you say melohin? Why didn't you just say hin, which is 12 lug? Why do you say a full hin? Shechayev adam lo'emer b'lashon Rama, because a person has to say it in the language of his teacher. And the Rambam explains in the Pirush Mishnayos that Hillel was the students of Shmai and Avtalion. Shmai and Avtalion were converts, and they had a hard time saying a hey. So they would say in instead of hin. Now, if they would say in, which means no, it's a negative, and if you'd say ein mayin she'uvin paslas hamikvah, it would sound like they're saying gathered water in a vessel water does not invalidate the mikvah. Now, that's not true. So to avoid that, they said malo in mayim she'uvin. This way, a full in. So then you know it can't mean it's not. It rather means the measure type hin, and they just had a struggle with saying the hey, and therefore that's what they said. So in any case, that's why Hillel said it in the language of his teacher, Malohin, a complete hin. Shammai Omer, however, Shammai said it's not 12. It's not 12 lug. It's 9. Sorry, it's not 12 kav. It's not 12 lug. It's 9 kav. Tisha kavit. And as we said before, each kav has 4 lug. So it's not 3 kav, it's 9 kav. The Chachamim say it's neither of you are correct. But they didn't know how many. The Chachamim did not remember what Shmai Avtalion had said. They only remembered that it wasn't the 12 lug or 3 kav that Shammai that Hillel had said, and they remembered also it wasn't the 9 kav that Shammai had said. Until 2 weavers who came, Mishara Ashba, and people who lived in the dung gate of Yerushalayim. Idu, and they testified, Mishum Shmai Avtalion, in the name of Shmai Avtalion, that it's 3 lug, which is less than a kav. It's 3/4 of a kav. That's enough to invalidate a mikvah if it's rainwater. V'kima Chacham is the rain, and the Chacham said, "Yep, you're right. That's what it was. It wasn't 3 kav. It was 3 lug, and not 12 lug, and that's what the measure is." And the Gemara says in Idios. So why did we mention, instead of their names, we mentioned 2 weavers from the dung gate to tell us that you have to learn Torah from anybody. Weaving was considered a very unsophisticated and a lowly job, and living at the dung gate was considered not the best neighborhood in Yerushalayim, to say the least. And yet, 2 students who came from the dung gate and were weavers, and they were the ones that reestablished the halacha, because they remembered what Shmai Avtalion said. So we see from there that we should learn from everybody, respect everybody for the Torah and the teaching they contribute. V'idach, what's the third machlokas of Shammai and Hillel that they had? Shammai Omer Kol Anoshim Dayim Shaitan, as we saw at the beginning of the Nida, that when a woman has a flow. So that's from that time on is when we assume anything they touched is tamei, and we don't have to assume that maybe they already became tamei earlier, and the tumah and anything they touched prior to that is also tamei. And Hillel says it's from the last time they checked and saw that they were clean from that time on. And so you have to go retroactive to the last time they know for sure that they had not bled. And even if it's many days back. And the Chachamim say it's like neither of these. Not just now. You do have to be concerned to a previous time. Maybe there was tumah. Also, but you don't have to go back to the last time you're certain. Rather, up to 24 hours, whichever is further back. 24 hours is the maximum, and that will minimize from the last check. So if you didn't check and within 24 hours, the max is 24 hours. And the check, if you check within 24 hours, that will minimize the 24 hours. So the max is 24 hours, but if you check within the 24 hours, it's to the last check. So Gemara challenges Vasuleka. Is there not another machlokas of Shammai and Hillel? Is that true? We have another one, which we mentioned earlier. Hillel in the Mishnah Chagiga says a list of generations of Chachamim, the Av Beis Din and the Nasi, that disagreed whether you do smicha on Yom Tov. So the halacha is that there's a takana d'Rabbanan not to ride on animals or really use animals on Yom Tov, and smicha requires a full leaning on the animal. So that would be a d'Rabbanan. And so the question is, do we do smicha on Yom Tov or not? So that machlok is a machlokes Shammai and Hillel. So Gemara says, yeah, it's true. But that's not their machlokes. That was an original machlokes already going back to the beginning of the Zugos. Kika Amar Rav Huna, Hechad the Leka Pluk to Doravasa, when it wasn't a machlokes of their teachers. It's a new machlokes of theirs. Bahadayu. So this over here, they had their machlokes of their teachers with them because they inherited that machlokes in generations of the Zugos, and therefore that doesn't count. What about this one? By Ika Habutza Lagas. What about the one we have later that if somebody is harvesting grapes with the intent of taking it to the press? Now, if you remember, grapes of produce are only susceptible to tumah if a liquid came on it. And we learned a few days ago, b'chiyuta. And it has to be that the liquid intentionally came on it. Now, over here, when he's harvesting the grapes in the basket, there could be some liquid that's oozing from some of the grapes, and it'll make the produce susceptible to tumah. Do I say that these grapes, since I want them for the juice, and some of the juice is coming out, and even though I'm not collecting the juice yet, because it's in a wicker basket or something, but I could have lined the basket with tar or something, and that would have retained the liquids, and therefore that liquid should count as making the produce susceptible to tumah. Nevertheless, Hillel say we don't say that, and Shammai say we do. Hillel says, Shammai Omer Huchshar. Shammai says the produce became susceptible to tumah. They are now prepared for tumah through the liquid. Hillel says no, it has not become susceptible to tumah. Barmine, yeah, you can't count that one. The Hasam Kashasik LeHillel LeShammai, as we'll see in a couple of pages. There, when Shammai challenged Hillel, when Hillel challenged Shammai and said, "Why are you saying that?" Hillel said, Shammai said, "No, that is the halacha," and they had a reasoning for it. We'll see in the Gemara later that they said, "What about olives?" In any case, the point is that Shammai responded and Hillel accepted it. We'll see there why he accepted it, but he accepted it, and therefore it didn't remain a machlokas. We're talking about 3 cases that were original machlokas of Shammai and Hillel, remained a machlokas, and that there is only 3 of. We'll see you in the morning.